welcome to the Blacklist, Forward Compatible's other podcast. We're finally sitting down to do our Walking Dead podcast, and I'm joined tonight by the legendary Moss.
Yes, apparently when you Google search my name, you just need to write Mossies.
Yeah.
I come up.
Yeah, no last name, no nothing needed.
Yes.
And on the flip side, somebody that when you Google their name doesn't exist is my girlfriend Kimberly.
Hi, my podcast debut. And I don't like my recorded voice, so we'll see. This might also be my last one.
Shut up, Andy.
Hey!
Well, that's all he complained about. I don't like how I sound. I hate it.
Makery.
Yeah, so this has been in the making for like 4 months now, and we finally decided to wait until the end of season 3, which was last night. Both of you saw it, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hold on to that. We'll get there eventually. Quick refresher for everybody. The first issue of the Walking Dead comic was released in 2003. They have had 109 issues of the comic so far, 36 different collected editions, 2 novels, which are titled Rise of the Governor and Road to Woodbury. The TV show started in 2010. They just wrapped the 3rd season. Season 3 premiered with over 12 million viewers, and the season finale, the numbers came out, was the highest rated thing on TV last night, with another 12 million, beating out Game of Thrones. It spawned its own talk show, The Talking Dead. They're re-airing the show in black and white. They have officially been confirmed for season 4. 2 online web series. Telltale made the Game of the Year last year for the Walking Dead episodes. They've confirmed season 2. There's the crappy first-person shooter made by Activision. And a halfway decent Facebook social game.
And can I just say, every time I hear Woodbury, I can't help but think of Mayberry, and then I think of Andy Griffith and Opie, and I want to start whistling.
You know, that might have been part of the reasoning for doing Woodbury, is because it was supposed to, if you look at kind of what the idealism behind Woodbury was supposed to be like small-town America.
Right, yeah.
Is that a real town in the suburbs of Atlanta?
I couldn't tell you.
I will look that up.
Maybe. So, first question is, when did you first hear about The Walking Dead, and what attracted you to it?
Well, I love zombie stuff.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Vic, we would always watch zombie movies, and in particular the George Romero ones.
Okay.
Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, The Land of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Diary of the Dead.
I have that, and I still haven't watched it.
Diary is awful.
Is it?
But then the newest one, Survival of the Dead.
Okay.
Survival of the Dead?
Was that the one when they're on the island with the horse?
To the island.
Yeah, with the chick, the zombie chick riding the horse?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of things with horses in there.
Yeah.
They strapped a horse inside this with a zombie, and they were trying to get the zombie to eat the horse.
Okay. And it didn't work?
No, it took like a week, and then it finally started doing it.
As to where on the first episode and the first issue of Walking Dead, that horse gets eaten pretty damn quick.
Yes.
Yeah, poor horsey.
Yeah. But so we heard, it's AMC. They're releasing this new zombie show. So me and my buddy, we just watched season 1, the first day it came out, and we watched the first 6, and we've been sort of addicted to it.
Hooked ever since.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I think you told me about it.
I was like, check this out! Comic books!
I mean, I've always loved comics and horror movies. I was always more of a vampire person, but I never admit that anymore thanks to, like, Twilight. Like, now it's like I want to get as far away from vampires as possible. But I've always kind of liked horror movies, especially the older, super cheesy ones.
Okay.
And so Walking Dead, I mean, because now with my stupid anxiety disorder, horror movies sometimes have a negative effect. And it's like, well, if it's going to be on TV, then it can't be anything really bad.
Yeah, you're not going with me to see Evil Dead, unfortunately.
No. And the handheld cameraness, that makes me want to puke. That movie, the one movie we saw with the things, and then I had to close my eyes, and then you want to make a movie scary, close your fucking eyes and listen to...
It was, it's not containment, but it was
Quarantine?
Quarantine, yeah.
That was probably in the top 3
Okay.
worst movies I have ever seen.
If if it wouldn't have had all that shaky cam stuff, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It would have probably made the top 15 worst movies that I've ever seen.
So it would have been a little bit better.
I mean, I got so nauseous. I had my head on his shoulder. I have my eyes closed, and then it's like, okay, no, this is too scary. And then it was like, all right.
You weren't the only one either. Our friend John went with us, and his girlfriend, the shaky cam stuff was making her nauseous too. I can't.
I like how the last scene in that movie was the scene that was in the preview.
Yeah. For me, my first experience was Walking Dead goes back about 10 years ago. I was in a comic book shop, picked up issue 1, was skimming through it, and put it back down. And I'm kicking myself in the ass for it now. I picked it up, and at the time, I had just kind of gotten back into comics, and I was reading Batman and X-Men and stuff like this. Things with intense visuals and not necessarily bright colors, but vibrant colors and great graphics. And then I looked at this, and I'm like, this is like art house cheesy crap. And set it back down, and probably went about 5 years before I kind of got back into it. And that's when you were working at Borders, and I used to hang out at her work, and I'd sit there and I'd read The Walking Dead in the collections.
Yeah, you just kind of reminded me of when I would see it on the shelves working at Borders, and it would be like, oh, the cover looks cool, and then you open it and kind of go, oh,
it's
maybe
like, am I supposed to color this in?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do here?
Give me a box of Crayola, stat.
Have the comics always been black and white?
They have.
They still, even the brand new ones.
Yeah.
And they haven't re-released them in color.
No, they like to do one sheets. Once in a while, they'll do a picture. Not canon of the comic, but like maybe of a scene from the comic, and they'll do it in color. But the comic itself is black and white.
Okay.
What was your initial reaction after viewing Walking Dead in whichever medium for the first time?
Well, I didn't even... I knew it was based on a comic, but I didn't know anything about the comic.
Completely off your radar?
Didn't care about the comic really initially.
Sure.
It wasn't until after the first season, and I started liking some of the characters. I would go, there's like a Wikia has a Walking Dead wiki, and so I was reading about this person's in the comic, but he's slightly different in the show, and I saw that, and I got hooked. Just the whole it's zombies, like I said, like I love Dawn of the Dead and I love Night of the Living Dead. Those. Just what would you do in a zombie apocalypse, and just
that might be some of the info. I don't know the exact reason why the comic's only black and white, but it may have something to do with the original Romero and everything being in black and white, and it was probably more along the lines of why Kevin Smith did Clerks in black and white. It wasn't an artistic move; it was because they couldn't afford to do color.
That was a budget.
Yeah, so that may be the case with Walking Dead, and it just stuck. But I like to. Preferred that more like how the TV show is being re-aired in black and white, that it's more of an homage to Ramiro is why they're doing it. What about you?
God, why are you asking me questions that involve using my memory? It was probably with you or my dad sitting at the couch in my house or in your apartment. I can't quite remember.
I don't remember where we were when we saw
I know, 1. I don't either. But it was
like 3 years ago now.
Yeah. That's too long for me. I can't even remember 3 months ago.
But what about your initial reaction to it?
I don't know. It was probably something like, ooh, Daryl. Like, I love Daryl!
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a prior history with Norman Reedus. Her and I are both big fans of Boondock Saints. Yes. Which was
you
phenomenal.
and your fucking rope. I can't do an Irish accent.
You and your fucking rope. Anyways.
He had an Irish accent in that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Daryl Dixon. Irish.
Oh, yeah.
Irish redneck.
Mm-hmm. I never put them two together.
No,
yeah.
I didn't either.
All right, so we're going to jump into a little bit of from season 1, kind of going over how they developed some of the characters and kind of who you liked and who you disliked right out of the gate.
Well, for me...
Giggle yet? Wait.
Right away, characters I liked. I liked Meryl.
Okay.
The racist guy.
He was in, like, episode 2 for, like, 5 minutes.
He was in 2 episodes.
Okay. Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and... I don't know. He was just such a badass. Everybody loved to hate him because he was so bad, such an asshole.
I've personally always liked Michael Rooker, going back to Mallrats when he played the bad guy in Mallrats.
And when you pointed that out to me, it was like, holy shit, it is.
And then the horror movie tie-in, since you said that you kind of dabble in horror movies, he was in Slither.
Okay, I haven't seen
Slither. It's horrible. Garbage movie about like slugs that take over people, and the big like hook for that is there was a scene of like this woman who's like 1,000 pounds just infected with them, and then she explodes in a barn. But he's in that. He's in that too.
I thought the commercials for Slither, there was a woman in a tub.
Maybe that's what. Maybe it was the tub.
I
don't remember.
To get it, something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. They were all coming up over the tub.
Yeah.
They're like giant worms. It was really bad. But anyways,
I liked Meryl.
Okay.
And I really liked the two leads, Shane and Rick.
Okay.
They were in the initial. They were both good guys then, and it showed. I think the first scene started with them too. Right?
Yes, they were sitting in the cop car eating burgers.
It was like before
and got the call.
Yeah, it was like weeks before, whatever, and like. And then it showed them from the Shane was with the camp and Rick was alone. I don't remember. I know it was only like 6 episodes. So it's season 1. So,
by season 2, Rick was at the camp, or by episode 2, Rick made it to the camp because the first one ends with him getting the call from Glenn.
Okay,
when he's in the tank.
Yeah, when he's surrounded. Yeah,
poor horse.
So like they were the two cops. They're the buddies. You were sort of cheering for them to. But for the most part, the rest of the cast, like not many of them were. It was a short season. You didn't have much time. Like Dale stood out to me. He reminded me of like Sean Connery for whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. See, Dale stood out for me too, but that's because Dale kind of reminded me of my dad. Okay. And if Dale was still in the show, I'm sure still would.
Your dad's the guy from Top Gear.
Oh God, the Top Gear, the British racing show, not the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dale kind of has that like goofiness to him that my dad kind of has, and then the fishing hat, the RV, quirky, very quirky. Like I could see my dad could very easily be Dale, I think, and he's probably going to listen to this one too. And I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you. From the beginning, I knew there was something about Shane that I wasn't going to like, and turned out I didn't like Shane at all.
See, I knew obviously going into the show, kind of, especially because episode 1. Plays out exactly, almost scene for scene to the comic. Okay, with some very, very slight variations, but it plays out almost identical to it. So I knew from the get-go Shane was going to turn on Rick. All right, that was a foregone conclusion. And I obviously really liked Michael Rooker as Merle, even though I thought he was just going to be a one-off and then done, one and done. Until they went looking for him and when they realized that okay, he's going to pop up again somewhere. I really liked Norman Reedus, and I liked T-Dog. Of course, everyone kind of sympathized for Glenn in the beginning. That was a bit he was nerdy and. That was how do you know the city so well? I delivered pizzas. It was cute. He was a cute character, if anything, for a supporting character. But I don't know why. Maybe because T-Dog wasn't in the comic and they didn't really build on him too much. It kind of left it up to the imagination a little bit with him. So that's kind of why I dug him. But obviously, I liked Rick, and even in the comic and in the show. I could never stand Lori or Carl. I hated them.
Yeah, Lori.
I hated them.
But Rick, too. I mean, Andrew Lincoln, I think, has just done a great job with what he's done with Rick. And I think
still don't understand how a Brit can have such a southern drawl.
Right?
Yeah. I really don't.
Well, and the governor's British, too.
Yeah.
One's from Liverpool, one's from some other place I've never heard of.
Well, it's one of the points that I have on here. In the comic, the Dixon brothers don't exist. They're a completely new element. Why do you think they might have done that?
Well, I think they had to just add some characters, but I didn't think initially they thought they were going to play a role. Daryl's character, Norman Reedus, not a featured character.
No,
he was just a reoccurring character.
Actually, even in the title, it was he wasn't even in a title.
Yeah,
like it was guest starring. Norman Reedus.
So I think they just thought they just treated him like an extra. And I think the show has responded to fan reaction. Yeah. And that's dictated, to an extent, the direction they've gone.
Sure.
And I think that's why the Dixons have become...
Such a big deal.
Well, see, I don't know, because...
Now, you've caught up with the comic a little bit, so you've kind of seen the side-by-side comparisons. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts about Daryl and Merle, it's kind of weird because out of everybody on the show, they're kind of the ones with the maybe most recognizable names. Not anymore, but when the show first started, I mean...
It added a little star power.
Right.
Yeah.
But they didn't... It was very underutilized, you know? And so...
The only...
I don't know. Whoever decided to put it in there, put them in and write those characters, props to them.
I think Lauren Holden, that's her name.
Yeah.
She's the star of the show, real in terms of name. Like, she's the only one I had ever heard of.
See, now, I hadn't heard of her.
Oh, she was Sybil.
Was she?
Sybil Bennett from Silent Hill.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right,
when I looked
And she
her
was
up...
known from something before that, too.
Was she? Okay.
Yeah, she was in a TV show. When I looked her up, it was like, oh, okay, I've probably caught her. But the facial recognition didn't really do anything.
The reason that I think they injected the Dixon brothers was to add an element of... these are their characters, so they can play them out a little different. They don't have to follow the comic book exactly. But to maybe add an extra level of uncertainty to go, this is different than the comic. You know, right off after episode 1, that's when you started to see some different, slight variations. But that's when the two paths really split. And they go, these are our guys, so you don't know where we're going with it. They kind of said that from the outset, I think.
Well, Carol's husband isn't in the comic book. And in the TV show, he is.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
He doesn't last that long, but the way that he acts, he definitely makes an impression among the other people that are in the TV show. The rest of the camp, they all know that this is an asshole who beats his wife, you know. And so, even though he didn't last very long in the show, he kind of made an impression. And because Carol brings him up, when Merle comes back and he's in the prison, he's like, oh boy, you know, you've changed, or you're ballsy now. And she's like, well, because I don't have to be afraid of my husband's shadow, or something like that, you know. So then she reflects, and she says that before, I think in a conversation with Daryl, Lori, how since he's no longer around, she feels more free.
She's a very drastic difference between the comic, Carol, Carol kind of goes batshit crazy in the comic book.
I haven't gotten there yet. She's sleeping with Tyrese. Tyrese.
I actually really like... Carol's such a minor character. She's the only character I think that's been in all 3 seasons that has not been a starring role.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically the Sophia stuff, that's when you really got to know her a little bit better.
Yeah.
When her daughter was gone.
Well, she was in season 1. There's
And
only 6 episodes, and she was in all of them. So.
And I think, too, Carol's kind of been the mother figure for the whole series. Because Lori, obviously, crap mother. Where the hell is Carl? And then you don't know who the father of your child is. And if they
Carl
were
in the house?
you know, and if they were planning on going like the comic book, then they knew from the beginning Lori's going to die.
Yeah.
So then who are you going to have who's going to be this kind of mother figure? And Andrea in the comic book, she's too young, even though I think in the show they aged her a bit.
A little bit.
And so, but she's also, you know, no kids, no husband, no nothing. So they needed somebody kind of, especially if they were going to bring Judith into play, that would kind of, you know, I think that's kind of why Carol's there. Carol's the mother figure. Although she helps Norman or Daryl stand up in the last episode. He takes her hand. It was like, oh.
I like that little romance they got.
Yeah.
Daryl
that little hillbilly romance.
Yeah. The part with the Cherokee Rose when they're looking for Sophia. Walking Dead makes me cry too much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I probably cried during some of those episodes.
One of the big branching points for the show that differs from the comic is when they leave the camp. In the comic, they go to Wilshire, the first farm.
Yeah.
Before they get to Herschel's. So they go somewhere else. In the show, they go to the CDC.
For one episode, which was so weird.
It really was kind of weird. Any thoughts on the CDC episode?
Like they spend that whole episode, like in hindsight, it's such an insignificant episode. It's just shows that everybody is infected. Yeah. That's all we really learned, and...
Like, you got a little bit more, very minor development between Lori and Shane. You know, when he tried to force himself on her.
And Andrea, because she wants to originally stay in the building, but Dale convinces her to come out. Yeah. They let Jackie die, though. But she had an insignificant role. I don't know, I think the CDC is...
Do you remember characters' names that I don't even remember?
Jackie was the black girl.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I think they maybe stuck the CDC in there hoping to thwart any, like, oh, you know, this is impossible, blah, 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 or, you know, the hearsay from viewers, maybe, because then this way they go to the CDC, they get the answers, everybody's already infected, which at that point, Rick was the only one to know, right? I was going to say, like, trying to...
Because that doesn't come out until the end of season 2.
Right.
So they're like almost a whole season.
And
Yeah,
then
exactly,
I
a
think,
whole
too,
season.
it's supposed to tell the viewers, like, okay, like, look, you can't be asking us, why don't they go for help? Because now we're clearly telling you that even...
Yeah,
like,
that there's
you've
no...
seen the military has lost their power in Atlanta in the first episode. Now you're seeing that other government agencies, too, have also disbanded and are of no use.
I think being a filler episode, it did provide, maybe not to the story, but a little more background on what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, that, like... their communications was gone. There's no government. And, what everybody knew already, it just, it was kind of redundant, but it still at least got some of that information out there.
Yeah.
And it was a nice throwback to, which was it, Day of the Dead? When they're in the military base?
Yeah, with Bubs.
Yeah.
With Bubs?
My favorite meme ever for Walking Dead and Day of the Dead is when, fast forwarding a little bit, when you see Rick holding the phone, the one that I showed you, where Rick goes, hello, and it shows, hi, this is Zombie, and that's Bubs.
There's been
Bubs.
so many of those, and then, like,
if you see a picture of a zombie holding the phone, it's, 1979 or something like that when that came out? It's they're trying to teach the zombie, and he picks up the phone and he goes, meh, the phone. So that's where that came from.
Oh, Bubs was awesome.
I was surprised because there were so many memes from that Rick picking up the phone and hello. The one that this is Jake from State Farm. I think I got like 4 or 5 shares on that, and it was like, really? Okay, like, whatever. This is what you people like.
Okay. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and I don't want to get too far into it, but there's a major development in the comic book before they leave the camp that doesn't play out in the show, and that's Shane. Shane doesn't make it past. Right? Yeah, he doesn't make it past the initial camp right outside of Atlanta. I've got a couple of thoughts why.
Well, I've read about this. Why? Well. Initially, when they was the guys making it, Glenn, what's his name, the writer? Well, whatever.
Frank Davenport, or whatever.
They wanted Shane's death initially to be the conclusion of season 1.
So it was supposed to happen when it was supposed to happen.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they got cut to 6 episodes for the first season.
Was it supposed to be?
Trial?
Okay.
I think I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, like, I guess initially they thought maybe we'll have 10 episodes, a dozen episodes, so and that'll be where Shane gets axed. But I think they kept him alive because they had the shortened season. They wanted to develop the character because that's sort of a big plot. I don't know how big it is, and it's kind of insignificant.
It's not really. I mean, they go back to it a little bit, but it's nowhere near the caliber of what it was in the show. It didn't have that impact.
Okay.
Like it did.
Yeah. So and then since they only cut it to 6, they included him in season 2, and then just stretched that out into the second
that. And I probably think some, like you were saying earlier, some of the feedback that people liked the dynamic between people liked to hate Shane.
Well, not yet in season 1, really. He was a good guy.
Yeah, but you were starting to see the cracks a little bit. So I think people were intrigued by that, and they go, you know what, we've got a little bit of a story here. We're gonna draw it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, isn't there a scene before Rick joins the camp, I thought, or maybe it's after Shane and
that's after
Lori are
the
fooling
flashback
around the
to them on the side of the road.
Okay, it's a flashback.
Yeah.
And then she's wearing a wedding ring as a necklace, though, and she holds it. And she's like, gotta stop.
It's a flashback. Yeah.
Okay. But
which
I think
is also
they
in the
kept
comic
on
too.
Shane because in the comic book, and it's easier to do it in comic books than it is to do it on TV. When Carl gets shot, they take him to the farm, and Herschel fixes him up, but they don't explain that, and it's just kind of like, okay, Herschel did it, whatever. And in the comic book, I think it's easier because comic books are broken up into your squares, your different scenes. So there's a scene that's like, okay, you can forget, imagine whatever happened. But in TV, you need to explain that a little more.
Yeah, you've got to flesh it out.
So where is all that stuff going to come from that's used for Carl? Okay, sorry, I'm not meaning to knock down the table. But then, okay, so we keep Shane. We have Shane go and get the medical supplies that we need for Carl. And I think it helps kind of fill in some of the story, Okay. And the same thing, too, for how Lori and Rick's relationship, keeping Shane in there helps you understand them a little bit more.
All right, so we're at the end of season 1. So we'll do a quick wrap-up. After you finished your first season, what were your thoughts? Were you hooked?
Well, my thoughts were like, all right, sweet. Let's wait another year until the next season starts.
Yeah. Right? Oh, my God.
I hate their breaks.
After the first 6 episodes, there wasn't enough character development where I
really
liked a particular character. But I started liking Shane at that point, and Dale was all right. and the rest of them I didn't really care much for.
For me, right before the show started, I reread like the first 48 issues of the comic to get caught up. And so I was really hooked. I was like, okay, I see where they're keeping some similarities to the comic, but then they're branching off on their own. So it kept me guessing, like, where are they going to go with it? I think that was, with season 1, you had your initial comic book fans, and that was your core audience that then branched out. So you had to keep that initial core still going. It wasn't as big as it was, obviously, as now. So by having those differences and kind of leaving it on that hook, where are they going next, really kind of opened the door for the show to expand a little bit.
And since you had read the comic book, I can remember, like, you would always feed me spoilers.
It was like, this happened in the comic.
Yeah, or it would be like, this is what happens next. And it's like, oh, damn, I want to see this happen. Like, you kept talking about the prison. You kept saying, wait till they find the prison. It was just like, okay, so every episode I'm sitting there waiting, okay, when's the prison going to come into play? When's the prison going to come into play?
All right, so then we start off with them. They get to the farm when Carl gets shot. They lose Sophia in the woods, and none of that really happens in the comic.
Well, isn't Sophia still alive in the comic?
Oh, jeez.
She is in the prison.
Yeah. Okay. She makes it to.
So she does.
And she's only like Carl and Sophia are only like 6 in the.
Yeah, they're a lot younger.
They're actually very close.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-year-old
labor laws,
love
maybe.
story.
Yeah.
That's why they had to age them in the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and if you want to make the characters more dynamic,
well, exactly.
I think you need an older actor.
In the comic, like what they did, jumping ahead a little bit between season 2 and season 3, they fast forwarded time a little bit. In the comic, these events aren't happening like you're not reading day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're jumping from event to event, so the characters are aging a little quicker than what you can on a show.
Yeah. I thought the early portion of season 2, does Carl get shot in the first episode?
First or second, it's right in there.
I know they're on the road that first episode, or whatever, and they like their home base was the highway or whatever it was, and that's where they got invaded by zombies and they got split up, and then they were looking for her. I think it was the second episode
it might have been the second episode. Yeah, I want to say it's the second episode.
Yeah, and then they finally got to the farm after that, and then I thought that episode where was it Otis and Shane?
Yeah,
where they go
to the supply run.
The high school or whatever it was that they had converted.
That was an awesome episode. Yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes, and that's where
Set myself on fire here.
Oh God.
That episode is when I really, really started liking Shane, because like he almost. Like it was like a sacrifice that was demanded by the group.
Yeah,
that he was willing to make.
That makes me think you're a little bit evil.
Well, it's a zombie apocalyptic world here.
I want to touch on that just a little bit. With that though, for as much of a scumbag that he was, and even though morally his decision wasn't right, he sacrificed somebody else for the better of the group. Yeah. Okay.
Are you going to say the greater good, like Rick says?
But he does. Literally, I mean, first off, the man goes on a run to save a little boy. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's got this fat slob with him. Okay, they're trapped. It's really hard to say, but if I was put in a position like that, and it wasn't an immediate friend or family, you don't have to outrun the zombies. You just have to outrun whoever you're with.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, it is survival of the fittest, and somebody had to die there. Shane was injured.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to do what you got to do to survive.
If I was Shane, I would have probably shot you in the leg. If it was you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. But then how Shane lies about it.
I might have at least had the decency to shoot you in the head.
Okay.
So that you wouldn't have suffered through it. Okay, because, I mean, you're still a warm body. They're still going to go after you. As we've seen, the zombies will still eat dead people before they turn. So I at least would have put you out of your suffering.
Yeah.
But, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, because didn't Otis break his ankle? Isn't that what slows him? Or no, Shane
shoots him in the leg.
Shane
sprains his ankle and then caps Otis in the leg and runs off. Yeah.
But then Shane goes absolutely kind of like batshit crazy after that. I mean, when he shaves his head, it's like Britney Spears. I mean, that's totally what I thought. How could you not? Like, now anytime you see anybody shave their head in like a scene of a movie,
like
TV show.
Moss shaved his head?
I kind of thought I didn't see any curls, but I was thinking maybe they were all tucked up under the hat.
It's just on the top.
Oh my God.
Well, I had not
so
cut my hair for 9 months.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Shane.
But anyway, I mean, he kind of goes like crazy.
Well, no, I think that next few episodes was a great character development in that process, because I remember like Carl was starting to heal a little bit, but there was still the whole search for Sophia, and there was this like it's been like it was like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
in
there
real
was
time.
there was a little bit of downtime, and that's where the series started to drag just a little bit.
I thought it was good character development.
It was.
It started the split, where the split was Shane was like, what the hell are we wasting this time for? This girl is dead. We don't want to admit it. Well, the other people were living in this like fantasy world that an 8-year-old girl can survive on her own for 5 days.
Well, in that mix, though, they did the cool thing too, where Daryl's looking for Sophia.
That's one of my points here.
And he's hallucinating about Merle, and Merle's making fun of him because Daryl's kind of blended in with the group and become, I don't want to say a gentleman, but I guess that's kind of,
I've got the perfect way to put it. Is you see almost a role reversal. Okay, Shane wasn't really a good guy, but he was still good. He was still with the group and everything. And Daryl was kind of the outsider tagging along. Okay, and then you started to see them kind of shift as to where Daryl, with looking for Sophia and out there and trying to find her, became more accepted into the group. You started to see Shane become outcast.
Yeah.
So it was at the same time, even though there wasn't a lot of action going on, there was definitely a lot of character development going on, and you saw that shift happen.
Yeah. And that was when people started falling in love with Daryl. Like, people saw him as this, started that thing with Carol.
As she said, the Cherokee Rose, when he brings back the flower, the whole being, out in the woods and seeing Merle, which I loved that whole episode with Merle just talking shit to him the whole time. And then it like, even, and it's almost like Daryl goes a little crazy out in the woods himself when he's lopping off the ears and wearing them around his neck. Yeah. But that was like his last piece of insanity before he became sane.
Right.
You know? So it was a weird transition between the two.
Yeah. There was
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then I still remember that scene. This is where I think the whole world started hating Andrea. Because Andrea, like Shane was teaching Andrea how to shoot. And then we see Daryl coming in from the woods. And Andrea's like, let me shoot her.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That was it for Andrea.
That, and then when you see Andrea kind of go off with Shane a little bit, when everyone, as the viewer, kind of knew Shane was kind of going off the deep end, Andrea's like, hey, I'll go with you,
Yeah.
And
also, too, she always made a big deal about having to have a gun, too. So you're kind of like, dude, just, like, chill out, Andrea. Like, come on.
As to where in the comic, she becomes a more integral part of the team.
Yeah, because she's got one of the best shots.
When she learns to shoot, she becomes essentially the group's sniper. So, she's always on point, on sentry, and looking out and everything. So she becomes very, very deep-rooted into the group.
But I think that first half of season 2 is really where characters started, because nothing really happened. The overarching story. I mean, there was all like Carl and Rick. They had their own. Rick just started giving blood. For like 3 episodes. Shane had his thing going. Lori had.
Don't we learn she's pregnant in the first couple episodes?
When Glenn goes on the run and bangs Maggie for the first time.
Yeah. And then he's done the farmer's daughter, so that's not going to play out well.
Literally, the farmer's daughter. Yeah, and we start, meeting Herschel and Herschel's family,
and that's also the first time that Carl runs off by himself. When he's stuck in the mud with the zombie.
Yep.
Oh, now we're at the second.
No, because he went out looking for Sophia, so that was still in first half of season 2. Because remember, the big cliffhanger is they find Sophia's in the barn.
Yeah.
Which was expected, but still sad. It's like, I knew she was going to shut up!
That
I'm
scene
a girl, it's fine.
was one of my favorite scenes.
Yes.
It probably is my favorite scene even till today of the whole show. Because, like, it was, like, everything came from, like, Rick was trying so hard to get in with Herschel, like, doing everything he says, even keeping these
That's
things
what
alive.
I want to touch on a little bit. What's with the whole, like, how do you feel about the fact that, like, Herschel was trying to keep zombies, quote unquote, alive, and they're feeding them in the barn and everything?
Well, it was like a religious thing. Like, he thought they were still alive. He didn't know what Rick knew. He didn't know what the group knew.
Yeah, and I think at some point...
Because that happens in the comics, too.
Yeah. I think Herschel, he still tries to see the person in the zombie, and so to just either kill them again or, have them out there wandering around, it just seems that's not what you do for your loved ones. You take care of them.
Yeah, they were like feeding him chickens.
Why were they killing the chickens? I thought it would have been far more entertaining to see the...
This is not Zelda.
They weren't killing the chickens.
They were injuring them.
They broke their legs and then threw it.
But, like... you ever see, like the old Rocky movies chasing a chicken alive? It would have been entertaining to see zombies chasing a chicken. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sure PETA was all over that.
Make it a little, like, get out there and place bets. Like, which zombie do you think's going to catch the chicken? Grease up a pig. Why not? You're on a farm.
Yeah, but, like, I think this was, like, Rick started... Like, this is where I started not liking Rick a little bit. Like, I understand he's trying to please...
He's being gullible.
Yeah, but he's not being realistic. I thought Shane was the more logical person at this point. Like, what the hell are we living next to a group of dead things?
Well, Rick has so much thrown upon him, though. Like, I understand he came in to kind of, like, take charge, but the whole thing with trying to be responsible for everybody, I mean, that really just crushed him. But
was that pressure put on himself, though?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of that he did himself, and I think some of it Lori encouraged him to do, too. And, but...
Bitch.
Yeah.
But
and I can't believe I cried when she died. I didn't like her the whole entire time. I still freaking cried.
And somebody dresses up as Lori for Halloween.
It was like the easiest costume ever, and then people kept thinking...
You dressed up as Lori as Halloween?
It was a white jeans, a tank top, and a flannel, and nobody knew who I was. Anyway, people kept thinking I was somebody else. I can't remember. But it was just like, fine, I give up on the Lori thing. I had borrowed like my mom's like one heart necklace, so I was like, I'll take that off, and... I forgot who people thought I was.
Irrelevant.
I really can't sit in this seat if we ever do this again, at least not while the monitor's on, because I can't stop staring at the feed? What do you call that?
The audio
heart monitor.
Yeah.
That person would be dead or dying, or something very bad would be. That's no.
But I think that big cliffhanger that like they killed off Sophia, and it was so emotional,
and
like you felt so bad for like Herschel, and like everything fell apart, and then like
which leads into one of my favorite moments from the show, and that's when Herschel takes off. Well, we're jumping just ahead a little bit. I want to draw a comparison to the comic. When the zombies break out of the barn, I believe it is. Isn't it? When Herschel dies in the comic? Herschel doesn't survive that long.
Herschel goes to the prison.
Does he? But he's injured at that point, isn't he?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, that's right. He kicked... When they killed the zombies in the barn, Herschel kicks them off the farm.
Yeah.
And they go and find the prison, and Herschel stays at the farm. So the farm hadn't burned down at that point.
Right, which I think is weird in the comic book because they're like, once they find the prison, they're like, oh, this is good. They're like, we'll go pick up Glenn, Maggie, Herschel, and I can't remember who else is there. Some of his other family that, and I was just like, and then you see them and they come and it's like, wait a minute, what the hell? Like, Herschel hated Rick, so why would he come to, like, join them at the prison? Like,
because he saw, I believe it was because he did see a little bit of the flaw in staying at the farm.
Maybe, but they didn't explain that very well, and it was just kind of like, oh,
well, I mean, it's not without its plot holes.
And then, like, Glenn, like, seems to fall in love with Maggie after a day and is like, well, I'm staying here. It's like, dude, like, there's other fish in the sea.
Not really. I mean, unless you're a necrophiliac.
Maybe Glenn is. You don't know, but it was just...
But one of my favorite scenes from the show is when... Rick and Glenn go to find Herschel, and they're in the bar, and the two scouts come in, and they have the standoff with them.
This is in the second half of the season.
Second half of the season. and the song kicks in by Clutch,
Yeah.
which was Regulator. And that's when you see Rick, kill off the two guys, and then it cuts to Shane back at the farm burning the bodies for everybody.
And that was
a really good moment.
Yeah, and that was Rick turning into the badass.
Like he was willing.
He's
to
not
kill
fucking around anymore. You know,
exactly.
Shit's getting real.
Yeah, he started.
Sorry.
He got the sense knocked into him a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And then we get into the whole scout, who jumps off the roof like an idiot and impales his leg on a fucking wrought iron fence.
Why
No, wait a minute. That's when Regulator plays by Clutch. No, that's the weird teeth collector song.
Yeah.
Never mind.
That's later
The
on.
music in Walking Dead, the TV show, that's very
appropriate.
Yes.
Very appropriate.
And, the people in charge of that have done a good job not only picking out the songs, but the portions that they use and filtering them actually into the episodes.
And the interesting thing about them using Clutch is it's the second time Clutch is featured in a zombie scenario. They use Clutch during the when Left 4 Dead 2 was coming out. That was the song they used for the trailer for that.
They're known for zombies.
Kind of. It's
and
really
if you
weird.
watch them perform, they kind of act like zombies because they're not a very entertaining group to see live, unfortunately.
What was that kid's name? The guy who got impaled?
Oh shit, I don't even remember.
I don't know.
Dwayne? Whatever it was.
Dwight? Something like that.
Dwayne? I don't know.
He was totally fodder.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. But, they went out of their way to save him. It was kind of risky because they were like...
Extremely. Extremely risky.
They saved him, brought him back to the camp, and then they're like, let's kill him. Or let's go...
let's throw him out in the wild.
Why... I guess human instinct was to save him. But
I guess.
Logic was telling them to kill him.
But no, I think that was because that was a big conflict for Rick and Shane because Rick wanted to keep him. Shane,
It's not an injured dog.
Shane wanted to kill him right away, and not bring him back. So I think that also led
I don't think
to
Rick
more
really,
between Rick and Shane.
Rick wanted to let him go, and Shane wanted to kill him.
Yeah, I think that's
Rick
what
did not want to keep him.
They didn't want to keep him at the camp.
Oh, I thought he.
But
I thought
they
Shane wanted to keep him
or
at
Shane
first.
wanted to just...
No, Shane wanted to kill him.
because he's
Yeah,
like,
Shane wanted
he's going to go find his
He's
friends.
gonna go find his
lead him
friends,
back.
right,
And that's
tell
when
him
you
where we
find
are.
out that the kid knew who one of Herschel's daughters were.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you find that out. And that leads into the fight between Rick and Shane.
Oh, yeah. At the school bus.
At the school bus, yeah.
That school bus scene was awesome.
Yeah. And then they're coming back, on the that's when Civilian kicks in. That's the song you were trying to think of.
Okay. Which you still haven't given to me yet.
I love that scene where they fight.
Yeah.
And they almost die. And then
Yeah.
Shane gets locked in the bus.
Yeah.
And the zombies almost... And then, Rick could have just left him there.
He could have. He could have. And
He can't... I was worried as a Shane guy. I thought they were going to kill him.
No!
And that's just another portrayal, though, of these, the life and death decisions that these characters have to make that gets a little bit overshadowed in the comic book because they don't get as involved with each individual person in the comic book.
You'll see. I don't mean to spoil anything. You'll see a little bit more of that as the comic develops. Once you get a little bit further into it, because you haven't encountered the governor yet.
No.
Yeah, it gets really weird when you get to him. Where are we at here on my list?
Then there's Herschel's other daughter, the suicidal one.
Yeah,
That's the blonde.
Beth.
yeah,
chick,
the one
wasn't
who,
it? Yeah.
who sings "Parting Glass."
Yeah.
But she was suicidal in season 2.
Yeah.
And Andrea's like, "Do it, go ahead,
yeah.
Yeah,
do it."
You can't tell her what to do.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
she's like 12, or she's 16.
No, she's 16, but the actress is 28.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Well, and that was another love-hate thing with Andrea. Do you like her for telling her that? Or do you hate her for telling her to go ahead and do what you want? And then the whole thing, too. Andrea constantly wanting to die, and it was like...
Here's a little bit, and I know I'm jumping ahead, and we're about to spoil the finale if you haven't seen it. If you're one of the 5
that are listening
people
to this cast.
you're one of the
if
5
you've gotten
people
this
that
far in without any spoilers...
Yeah. What kind of... I know it was supposed to strike a chord with everyone last night when you find out that Andrea's bitten and she's gonna shoot herself. But she says, I didn't want anybody to die. This is a load of bullshit. It's a load of bullshit. First off, go back to season 1. She didn't even want to fucking be there. Okay? She's like Dante and Clark. Like, I'm not even supposed to be here. Okay? Then she tries to get this little fucking emo girl to commit suicide.
But I think
She's
she had
full
the
of shit.
turnaround. No, I think
bullshit.
she had a turnaround.
No.
We have so much.
You know
we
what
don't
it is?
even know
Let me tell you what it
happened
is.
between Michonne and Andrea
I'm
the
gonna-
entire
no,
time that
I'm
they
gonna
were
tell
together.
you exactly what it is.
What?
It's because she got a little dick. That's what it was. Okay, she was boning the governor. She felt a little bit better about the whole thing. Okay?
Ridiculous.
It's exactly what it was.
Unfucking
then you know
believable.
what happens? Being the the bitch that she is, dude loses an eye, and all of a sudden she's trying to kill him.
And sucks at that too.
Yeah. You know.
But yeah,
No, I felt for Andrea on that episode.
Going back to the farm, everything's kind of building up between Rick and Shane
over the kid.
Over the kid. You're fucking Carl just won't stay in that house.
Yeah.
Okay, he's just out getting into trouble. Where are we at with that? How does the barn start out? Okay,
Well, Shane goes and frees the prisoner, or freezes, and says he got out, and leads Shane.
Well, we're jumping ahead just a tiny bit. We forgot that's where Dale dies.
Oh yeah, Dale dies.
Dale dies.
That's a little bit.
Third to last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because with the zombie that freaking Carl didn't kill.
You know,
Stupid Carl going out again.
It was the cause of Dale dying, which another point of the comic book is Dale doesn't die.
He's the one who gets his foot chopped off.
He's the one that gets his leg amputated. Yes.
And in last night's episode too, Carl also makes a reference as to why he shot that kid because he didn't shoot the zombie that killed Dale.
Sure. Fuck that.
They kind of make a good job going.
They kind of
make a good job.
They've got some good throwbacks.
Yeah. Me speak English well one day.
I thought Dale's death. A lot of I remember reading at AMC and some message boards. Like people were like, "Oh, how did they kill off Dale?" Like,
I was one of those. I couldn't believe it.
They gave Dale like superpowers a little bit. Like, how did Dale know exactly what happened with Shane and Otis? Like, I think he shot him and ran away. Like, what?
Because he was James Bond. He was Sean Connery.
yeah.
It was the instinct of being
the
a
man now,
007, you know?
Like, they gave him too much information, and, like, he was, like, this, like holier than thou character.
Yeah,
I think Dale was the neighbor that would be like on Desperate Housewives, always up in your business and know who's sleeping with who, you know. Well, even before the baby's born, that's not your child, by the way. That's the plumber's child, you know.
I liked Dale in season 1 and the first half of season 2.
Yeah, me too.
And then when he started
going anti-Shane
and kind of disputing with Rick a little bit, and just kind of like, you're fucking stupid. You know, and that stupid look that he would give everyone. He did. He get that with his mouth kind of hanging partway open.
I did like how he was like the lone voice when he was like, "Let's keep this guy alive." Yeah. Like he was the last, like shred of former civility.
Realistically, with the way that they had developed Dale's character, he wouldn't have made it with all this stuff that went on with Woodbury.
Yeah.
He'd been like, "We come in peace," and get shot in the fucking head. Yeah. Okay, that's exactly what would have happened. He'd have been sleeping with the governor.
That would make for good TV.
I don't know what your ferret is doing, but she will not stop scratching on something.
Yeah, she's fine. She scratches. That's what she does.
But no,
she's turning.
I don't know what she's doing.
It was a turning point for the show, though. You know that it kind of showed. Yeah, it kind of showed.
It was the end of innocence almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. It was the end of the innocent age, and it also showed that everyone's up for grabs in the show. You know, to kill off. And he was like, your uncle, your grandpa, that beloved character. Yeah. He was up for everyone in the show was up for grabs. Yeah. And I think that was really the point when you didn't have, even though he was anti-Shane, he was still the voice of reason between the two and trying to make them work. Yeah. And as soon as that filter was gone,
he was Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as somebody stepped on him, all bets were off between the two alpha males of Rick and Shane.
Well, even at that point, too, the characters, because you had a relatively central character suddenly taken out of the mix. And before, Jackie, I mean, they didn't do anything with her. Sophia, she was a kid. Exactly.
He was the first main
character to get taken out.
Yeah. But
if you listen to the...
maybe I'm hearing your dog, never mind.
Yeah, what the producers of the show said, it was supposed to be Herschel. Herschel was supposed to die. He was all set up, and then he got a revision to the script and was like, "Oh, they saved me." He says that in an interview.
Good.
So I don't know, what. Maybe they just liked the guy who plays Herschel better than they like the guy who plays
How
Dan.
can you not like Herschel? Herschel's awesome.
Got my problems
Yeah.
with Herschel. We'll get to Herschel in a few minutes because
okay.
Herschel is a background character in season 2. I know you have the whole thing with the bond.
He's a background character in season 3. Really.
But there's more character development with him in season 3.
He's one of the characters that was in season 2 and 3 that was not a featured character. He's a like and also starred like he's not a prime role.
Yeah. So we're leading up to the setup by Shane.
Shane's like Shane. You can tell that whole episode, like his like that look in his eye, like
he had a very glossed over look.
Yeah.
And then
Must have smoked a lot of pot before filming that day.
I don't know what they did, but I mean, I've never seen somebody have more of a stonic like stare.
Yeah.
Than what he has had, and just like that look.
Like
that he
know,
had.
this dude's brain is no longer firing on all 4 cylinders.
I think there was levels of remorse in it. Like he knew what he had to do in his mind, but was sort of not willing to do it. Like you weren't sure, like if Rick didn't kill him, what would have happened?
Leave that alone.
So
this one.
He's chewing. He keeps trying to chew the power brick from my laptop.
I'll go get him. Go ahead.
yeah, so like Shane,
Damn dog.
Shane, like that whole episode where he's like slowly leading Rick into the woods. He knows they're not gonna find anything.
And Rick's like a half step back the whole time.
Yep.
And then like over time, Rick sort of realizes that, like Rick figures out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, this guy's gonna kill me, or he's trying to kill me. And Rick tries that last
ditch effort to kind of talk some sense into him.
Yeah, and he sort of was talking him down a little bit. Shane starts crying and like was lowering his gun, and Rick got closer and closer, and then Shane dies.
Why did Shane die?
Rick stabbed him.
Exactly. So, kind of playing off the whole thing, and this is, I don't think anybody's got this comparison just yet. In last night's season finale, when the teenager that Carl shoots, he's lowering his gun. He's giving up.
He's coming closer and closer and closer to Carl.
Yeah, but he's doing it in a submissive manner, kind of how Shane was. Was Shane having a change of heart?
Well, see, the thing is, though, is that we have the background with Shane as opposed to the kid that Carl shoots. So we don't know.
I understand, but I'm just drawing the comparisons between they're kind of seen when you put those two scenes together.
If Rick hadn't stabbed Shane and Shane would have stayed with the group, it would have happened again where Shane tries to kill Rick. I don't think Shane could ever fully recover and come back to the person he was. With Lori, with Carl, with Lori going to have the baby. I mean, I think that would have...
I knew that would have, like I was hoping because I knew at this point I had this was the part of the show where I started really getting into it, where I started looking at the
wiki and reading into it a little bit and
saying, Shane dies in the 6th episode, the 6th comic book.
Yeah,
like it sucks because I know my favorite character is gonna die. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah,
like I was hoping he just left.
Yeah,
they're like, you can't stay here. Just send them away and have them come back like in season 11 or something. Yeah. Well, that's what I was hoping for. But that's like you felt sorry for him a little bit. He started crying.
I did for a split second feel sorry for him, just same way that Rick kind of did.
And the music they played, that atmosphere, it was like that mist, that the fog.
Yeah, and they're like almost on like a hilltop.
And the moon, you see the moon, and
you know what it reminded me of. Do you ever play Ninja Gaiden? The opening scene of Ninja Gaiden for the Nintendo. It's 2 ninjas standing like in a plane with the moon behind them, and they just start charging each other, and then they leap up into the air, and it's all cinematic and shit. That's kind of how that played out for me. Honestly, I was like, Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, the moon! It was like there was no noise. It was like the silent night, and
and I honestly felt bad for the fictional character of Rick when he had to stab his best friend.
Yeah, he started crying himself.
Yeah.
Why'd you make me do this?
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden
Carl was right there.
And then Carl walks up. And that's a turning point for Carl's character, too.
Because he sees Rick kill Shane, who according to Carl, like, Shane was like a second father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
part of the problem.
and then Shane reanimates, and Carl kills him. And this shows a change for Carl, because it's the first person that anything that Carl kills.
Yeah.
It's almost like redemption because he
from running away. Exactly.
could have killed the zombie.
And that's where I appreciated Carl. I still couldn't stand him in season 3, but I respected the kid a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it wasn't only that this is the first person this is the first person Carl shoots, or first thing, whatever you want to consider it, but he does it to save his dad.
Yeah.
You know, or to possibly save his dad, because we don't know if Carl wasn't there and Rick hadn't been so distracted by seeing Carl, although he'd probably still be very distracted and distraught by killing his best friend, you know. Carl saves his dad. And Carl saves Rick.
And it's his perfect aim because of what, Shane taught him how to shoot.
Yeah. and then all hell breaks loose out at the bar.
Well.
Yep.
So that was the second to last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
And I honestly did not even want to watch the last season.
Really?
I'm done.
So distraught.
I'm done.
I was like angry. I was like so attached to Shane. I like Shane. Shane, that was my man.
I think he.
So the season finale was a letdown.
I think they did Shane justice though.
Yeah.
You know, by extending his life in the series. And they actually paid him off pretty well.
It made me hate the comic book a little bit, because you know who's gonna live and who's gonna die to an extent.
Yeah.
There's been
some flip flops and some twists.
That's why I'm so happy Daryl's not in the comic book, because I think that gives him a good long chance of living.
Even if you're a character, nobody wants to see their character die ever.
Yeah.
So even if we're in season 3 and the comic book is in a theoretical season 8.
Yeah.
And your favorite character dies in season 8. You're like, ugh. So I have to watch the next 5 seasons or 3 seasons of the show knowing he's going to be dead.
Jumping ahead, spoilers, one of the major plot points in the past 10 issues of the comic is Glenn dies.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. When you told me that made me so sad.
Literally, there's this guy named Negan, and he's worse than the governor. He's literally got a huge army, and he's got Rick and them lined up execution style, and he's walking and he's got this baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, and Rick and the crew are absolutely powerless at this point. And the guy literally throws Glenn down on the ground and starts hitting him in the head with this bat, and Glenn's crying out for Maggie as you see his skull being crushed in. It was intense.
When you told me
it was intense.
Wow. In the comic,
and I appreciate Glenn. I've liked what he's done. I like the character development in the comic book. I like the character development in the show for him. But that was the first time that, I'm not going to say, I didn't get emotional, but you get that, choked up a little bit. You're like, holy, you're so surprised that the guy made it 100 and something issues into the comic book, okay? That's a feat in itself for The Walking Dead. And for him to go out like that in front of everybody was just wow. It was really shocking.
I'm not looking forward to getting that. Then I'll be crying reading the comic book.
I on the flip side really liked how season 2 ended with everything going to shit.
Yeah.
With the barn burning down, the group getting split up, Daryl on the motorcycle tearing past the zombies.
Yeah, because zombies like noise, so let's get on the noisiest fucking thing we got.
I like how Herschel has the shotgun that never runs out of ammo.
He's got unlimited ammo. It just...
He's literally sitting... he must have killed 75 zombies.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it still is a TV show. You can forgive some things like that.
One cool thing that... was in the production notes is they actually had to go in and digitally remove the breath from all the zombies because it was cold.
Yeah.
So they would you would see the people in zombie makeup and you'd see their breath, especially when they were all packed together. They had to go in and digitally remove their breath.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, the season 1 of the show had a $3.2 million budget.
Yeah.
Now they run on a $2.8 million budget. And people were complaining that season 2 didn't look as good as season 1. Oh, the zombies look more plastic. Really? Really? You're complaining about that?
But you know what? Those people, too, who complain, those are the people that are 400 pounds, who are 40 years old, still living in their mother's basement with the face full of acne.
Hey, you're probably, bashing half our audience, just so you know.
No offense to fat people with bad skin. I know how you feel.
But the final episode of season 2 had 2 major points in it. That's when you seen the second coming of badass Rick.
When the Rictatorship.
The
Yep.
Rictatorship, exactly.
Did he actually say that? Too?
Yeah, no.
Or is
No,
It's a
that
coin
came
phrase.
up, yeah.
And then as the scene fades and the camera pans out, you see the
prison.
nerdgasm of the prison in the
Yeah.
background. So you kind of know the direction. Even though season 2 furthered that branch between the comic and the show, there was a crossing point again.
Yeah.
So that leads us into season 3, where they fast forwarded through the winter, which I was a little pissed about. I wanted to kind of see what happened.
Well, I think they have to. The problem is Carl.
yeah.
Yeah.
In a different way, not Carl Grimes, but
Chandler Riggs.
Chandler Riggs is the problem, not Carl.
Exactly.
He's going to get older, and you can't have a 12-year-old be 12 for,
Yeah.
It's the Harry Potter effect.
Yeah.
So
And eventually his voice is going to change too, and then he's going to be growing a mustache. He's going to be shaving in a scene where he's supposed to be.
One of the other nerdgasms from the very end of the very last episode is Michonne, the introduction of Michonne, which is one of the fan favorites from the comic book, and her introduction into the show. So that created a ton of hype.
Saint Andrea.
I don't with the way season 3 ended. They're doing things different, of course, but I don't think it had that impact that the end of season 2 did, where you're losing Shane, you're gaining Michonne, and they're going to a new location like the prison. You're not really seeing that this time around.
Yeah.
No, it's a little more peaceful.
Yeah, and I don't want peace in this show. I like it when it's crazy.
There's enough hype around the show where they didn't need to make it dramatic.
I mean, 12.4 million viewers
and I mean,
last night.
And season 4 will probably break this record.
And you still have plenty of kind of cliffhangers, because now you've got Woodbury with its still solidified walls, like just barren. The Governor Martinez and the other dude are off somewhere. God only knows doing
You've
what.
got what's the guy's name? Oh, Jesus, why do I keep forgetting his name? Tyrese, thank you. He was introduced partway through season 3. He's a more integral character in the comic, but you're seeing him reintroduced at the very tail end of this season. What are initial thoughts on the beginning of season 3 and the prison?
It was nice. It was good, nice, good. Calm.
Yeah.
We right away. It was nice to see that the characters have evolved. So now I got off the Shane bandwagon. Like I finally came to my senses between
over that 8-month gap. You were able to deal with the more. You were done mourning Shane.
Yeah, I got my doctor prescribed me some depression pill. But I liked her. My favorite characters entering season 3 were Herschel and Carl.
Okay.
And especially Carl, the first few episodes of season 3, because I think the show season 3 starts with Carl. In that opening scene,
yes,
yeah.
You see him with a gun and shooting things.
Exactly, he's on a raid with them.
Oh wow! So he's you can tell things have advanced, and he's turning into John Connor. That's my comparison.
My comparison, actually, and it's going to sound stupid, is to Gohan from Dragon Ball. And how in Dragon Ball Z is the story of Goku, okay? But in it starts to transition to Gohan, his son.
Really?
Yes, as stupid as it is. Yes. You can draw comparisons between it. You can.
And your friggin' Dragon Ball.
Yes.
I like the John Connor comparison.
That
he's the little
too.
kid that's powerless, but he's supposed to be a big deal in the future. So
kind of a big deal.
So I liked that beginning, and then they get to the prison, and I mean, how far are we going? Like, did they meet those 4 prisoners?
Yeah,
yeah, and it shows like the whole aspect of like, are they ever going to welcome new characters in? Like,
Yeah, is this the core? Have they established their core now?
Yeah, and it's nice. I thought it was nice to see Daryl become Rick's kind of right hand man.
Yeah,
which in prison.
Really.
What's his name again?
Tyrese.
Tyrese is Rick's right hand man in the prison.
Yeah.
He with the hammer.
Yep.
What else? Then, the introduction of the governor, that was a big thing for me.
It was more Michonne first.
Her.
I loved her zombies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that scene
And her
with
sword.
there was another exactly scene for scene, her standing with the cloak over her with the two zombies and the sword. That's how they introduced her.
Yeah.
All right. So initial thoughts on Michonne.
Oh,
did you
Michonne's
read
awesome.
Did you read in between
No.
the gap about the character at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
I just and I saw some of the pre-season 3 hype.
Yeah.
About her character and like interviews. They were at like Comic-Con, and it got me hyped about her character.
Okay.
And the whole internet was going like
Because I'm going to take some time on Michonne. So.
Well, because you had kind of told me a little bit about her and whatnot, and then in the first few episodes of season 3, she doesn't say a whole lot. So it's like, okay, we've got this super badass chick who wields a sword when everybody else has pretty much opted for guns or hand knives. She's got a fucking katana, which, where did she get that? How did she get that? But then
It's in the comic.
there's so much mystery about her because we see that obviously she's a good person because she takes Andrea in and has cared for Andrea over the entire winter, and Andrea was obviously sick, and Michonne has protected her, provided for her, whatnot. But we don't know anything about her. We just know she's fucking badass.
She brings a
does
sword
have
to a gunfight and wins.
Exactly, It's like, I don't know who she is, but I kind of want to be her, maybe.
Looking back at the differences between Michonne from when she's introduced in the comic and the show, I was actually a little disappointed with the character for the show because there's a big the whole build-up between her and the governor plays out a lot different in the comic book. He basically what he teased doing with Maggie, he actually does to Michonne several times. Regardless of the fact, you find out more backstory about her that they've kind of brushed over in the show. The two zombies were her brother and her boyfriend, which you find out they kind of brush it off in the show. She mentioned that she used to talk to dead people.
Yeah.
They brushed it off in the show, where you see her kind of in line a little bit more with Rick after Rick loses Lori when he starts going crazy. Michonne is his support then because she's crazy too. So they're crazy together. And you don't really see that in the show, at least not yet. They've made comments, but they kind of just brushed it off a little bit. That kind of annoyed me a little bit. I was like, develop the character more.
Well, they did. They started. So I think next season we'll learn a lot more about Michonne.
Yeah.
Because,
I think they're playing her a little bit different, too, though.
Yeah, probably. But they gave a couple episodes ago when they bump into Morgan and Michonne comes with Rick and Carl. Then, they kind of let her
That's when she's accepted into the group and everything.
Right, Carl tries to run away again, and Michonne catches up.
Stay in the house! That leads us to the governor. When they announced who was playing the governor for the show, that was the first time I've heard any backlash online regarding, because he looked nothing like him from the comic. They're like, how's this fucking Brit going to be the governor? He's not some scraggly, long-haired guy like he was in the comic. But I think, I can't remember the actor's name for the life of me.
David Morrissey?
Thank you. He was a different governor than what we saw in the comic. They had some of the same tendencies, but he played him almost like a Bond villain. As to where in the comic, he's just kind of a psycho asshole.
Well, see, and that's one of the things, because I didn't know what the governor looked like, and now how you've just described him, tall, skinny, long, crazy hair. I think, how do you get somebody...
he looks almost like Kid Rock.
How do you get somebody to go along with that, though, their plans? I mean, if so they take David Morrissey, who's nice, he's tall, I guess he's
You got a crush on him, don't you?
No, I don't.
Don't lie.
No.
I'd give it to him. I'd pretend I'm Andrea.
Ew.
Yeah, okay.
Roleplay.
He's way too old. But they take a guy.
You just need to wear an eye patch.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
But you see what I mean? And that's where I think, too, part of the whole thing, how I said how he kind of reminded me of Hitler is because in order to get all these people in Woodbury to go with him until they finally flee the prison on the way back and they say, what the hell are you thinking? He's got them all able to do whatever he wants under nothing more than his charisma and what he said and how he's tried to convince these people.
The little bit of the backstory about the actual governor is he's not really Philip Blake. Brian Blake, I believe he is. Philip was his brother. His brother, and you find this out in the two books, his brother dies and he takes over pretending to be his brother. Penny's actually his niece. He was a coward all the way through the books. His brother was always the go get him, like, he was almost like Daryl. Okay.
Okay.
And then when his brother dies, he takes on that persona so that he's not afraid anymore. And that's where he basically develops split personality. He takes over Woodbury. He doesn't form Woodbury. He takes over Woodbury by force. Woodbury was there before, had the guy I believe was like National Guard was running the show. Literally walks into a town hall meeting that they have, pulled out his gun and shot him. And that's how he took over. So in the comic, the people of Woodbury, regardless of how peaceful they pretended it, they've already seen those aggressive tendencies of the governor a little bit.
Right. So they probably have more fear of him.
Kind of. But yeah, that's how that plays out. Where are we at with it?
In the show, it seemed like the actual like residents of the Woodbury thought of him as a leader, as a good guy, and like his bad tendencies were like secretive.
They were hidden.
Yeah.
Like only like his Merrill and who's the other his
Milton.
sidekick?
Milton and then
Milton.
Martinez.
Martinez. They knew his evilness and some of his henchmen because when they went and killed those military guys, that was like the first episode. And like we're like, oh wow, this guy's really
And Martinez plays a bigger role in the comic than what he does in the show, but I think that
they kept him alive.
The reason that Martinez didn't play as big of a role in this season is because we got reintroduced to Merle.
Yeah.
We found Merle.
Yeah.
He was in Woodbury.
Yeah, we found him.
Yeah.
Apparently a clone of Ash.
And he's
or
got
descendant of Ash.
They're very much of an Evil Dead reference there with the blade on a stump there.
That's awesome though. And he's not as racist anymore.
He's still called Glenn a Chinaman.
Well, so did his brother.
Yeah.
But like I thought when he got Michonne, like I thought we were going to see some of old Merrill.
Yeah.
But,
how did you feel about the reintroduction of Merrill? I know we they teased him. He was in one episode as a apparition.
By the way,
in season 2.
It's Merle.
Merle.
Whatever. I think Merrill, like from Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Merle.
Merle. We did that for you.
America.
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 What did you... That's going to be a meme. I'm making it for you.
America.
Yeah. What did you think about the reintroduction of him?
I liked him, but like I liked his character. Like I was waiting for him to come back, and I got so excited when like he was coming back, and it showed that he had changed a little bit. Like he was not as much of an asshole as he was in the first season. Like he was not like this complete.
Maybe because he was a little bit more of a follower at that point.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like the primary prick of the group because at that point you hadn't known that Shane was fucking batshit crazy.
Right.
Yeah. But then you could tell he was just so loyal to the governor in that group, and he would be willing to do anything.
See, I don't think he... obviously, we know how it plays out. He wasn't as loyal to the governor as what he thought. He was more loyal to self-preservation.
Yeah. That's true.
He was going along with this fucking psychopath because the dude was feeding him and keeping him alive.
Right.
So Merle was always about self-preservation and survivalism.
Yeah.
What about you when they reintroduced Michael Rooker?
Well, I mean, it wasn't... To me, it wasn't really like... not jaw-dropping. It was just kind of like, okay, he's back. And I was like, what the hell did they do to his hand? It's like, okay, well, obviously, we
already knew he was a badass because he cauterized his own wound with a fucking...
Right.
Yeah.
But makes me love him.
Like a frying pan.
But now he's got this, like, fucking thing on his hand. And I think as soon as I saw Merle, it was more like, okay, well, now what are they going to do with him and Daryl? You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, obviously, they're brothers.
And they did a pretty good job of keeping them apart.
Yeah.
Until the mid-season finale.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know that Merle's loyalty is to himself first, Daryl second, and then this governor dude who's kind of...
So then we get Andrea and Michonne going to... Bitching back and forth and going to Woodbury. Michonne knew something was up with the governor from the start. Got a bad vibe. Governor sends Merle...
to kill her.
Yeah.
And Merle fails.
It runs into Glenn and Maggie.
Yes.
He doesn't know Maggie, knows Glenn.
Yeah, this is... at this point, I was expecting Merle to be more like, holy shit, it's Glenn. Like, where are you guys at? Like, take me to your group.
Yeah.
Like, where's... Like, I don't know why he... this is one thing I didn't like about Merle, I guess, this part of him. Where... like I thought he'd care more about like I saw Glenn, like all he cares about is his brother, like take me over there. Like why do you got to bring him here and get him?
I think I get what you're saying. I think maybe they didn't explain it well enough. But I think part of it is he couldn't get Michonne, so he wanted to get back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. If he can't bring her back, let's bring back somebody else and beat the piss out of him to get the information he wants. He's not going to be like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" You know, pat him on the back. He's been like, "No, get the fuck over here. You're going to tell me where he's at."
Yeah.
Then we lead into the swap, as I like to call it.
Michonne
goes to the prison. It's not really
with the
accepted.
Baby stuff.
Yeah, with the baby stuff, and Glenn and Maggie get captured by the governor. He makes her take her top off. I was hoping for at least a little side boob. We don't really get no side.
But see, and now that part really, that episode, or 2 episodes, I think they split it into, made me sealed the deal for me loving Glenn and made me kind of disappointed in Maggie because I was hoping Maggie would have been a little bit more badass and stood up a little bit more to the governor. But then you see, she does it because she loves Glenn. She had heard Merle beating the crap out of him.
And Merle beat the shit out of him.
He did. And it still kind of made me a little bit disappointed in Maggie. I'm still kind of waiting to see her. I want to see her become, I don't know, I see her, and for some reason she kind of looks like Lara Croft to me, so it's kind of like she's got this inner badass. She's been repressed by her, like, religious father all year.
You start to see come out a little bit
A little bit.
I mean,
but then Glenn, too, I mean, and how he was on Talking Dead talking about how they just kind of like, said, here, do it, we're going to
That's my little bit of a problem is that they tried to make Glenn into a badass when you already had Rick, who was having, at this point, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Lori died.
Yeah.
Now, surprise. Nobody really cares because Lori died, okay, except she didn't, as to where in the comic, she gets killed by the governor when they're fleeing the prison. This time she dies during childbirth.
Yeah.
Carl steps up again.
Yes,
yep.
Kills his wife. Yeah.
Mother.
And I can't believe I cried. I hated Lori. I think maybe I cried more for Carl having to shoot his mom.
I mean, can you imagine if John Connor had to shoot Sarah?
Yeah. But
would have stopped the whole thing. But yeah, I didn't like that they were trying to make Glenn into another badass.
I don't like Glenn.
But I think, and if maybe they had just captured him, it would have been different and it would have played out different. But it was because they had Maggie too. That's kind of why. I mean, I understand in the moment, like if he would have went apeshit on the zombie, but that dude should have been crying his fucking eyes out when Merle was beating the living shit out of him. That he should have. Okay, there was no indication why all of a sudden he's just like, I'll take an ass whooping from a redneck.
I thought I'm surprised that Glenn didn't tell him.
Yeah, I was too.
Like I didn't think. I thought like I don't know. Like
because if you know Merle, I don't think if Glenn would have came right out and said, "Hey, let's go see Daryl" or whatever, I don't think that would have stopped Merle from beating him or would have had Merle set them free.
Not necessarily, but I still don't. I mean, for as important as that scene was, I just think they kind of jumped ahead in the evolution of Glenn a little bit. It was a little quick. I can understand fighting for your life and the whole scene with the walker, but when he was getting his ass whooped, he should have. He should have shown it a little bit.
They kind of had to have him man up because then when you've got the governor's army coming in, how many valid soldiers are on Rick's side?
But it could have been a little bit more.
Daryl Dixon.
Yeah. Exactly. And do you really need any more than Daryl Dixon? I'm just
saying.
No.
So then.
But I liked one thing during that scene when Meryl's beating the shit out of him, and he's like, they're going to come and get you. Mm-hmm. And he starts naming all the people. And he names, Shane, who's dead. And names Andrea. Mm-hmm. And at this point, Merle knows that he's full of shit.
Yeah.
Because he knows Andrea's banging the governor.
Yeah. Exactly. Then we've got this weird dynamic of Andrea and the governor. Which, I can't really make a comparison to the comic because they don't... There's no crossover.
The only thing I have to say is...
Yeah, that was kind of another Andrea, she's doing it again, where it's kind of
she got a thing for bad boys.
Shane's
a good guy, but
I mean
the governor's not.
Andrew has kind of always been the flip-floppy character. I think the directors or producers, whoever, I think they kind of wanted to make you love to hate her. You know,
they did a good job of it.
Yeah.
There was a gap to fill when Lori died, and Andrea clearly stepped up and fulfilled that role.
Yeah. Wow.
But I think it also, I mean, finally, though, it gave you, I mean, this is what Andrea had been searching for, you know? She wanted life back as it was without all the zombies and crap. From the point where her sister died in season 1.
There's one point that I want to bring up, and I've laughed at it wholeheartedly a little bit before. This show is racist to black people.
Oh, yeah. There's always the one.
There's
everybody
just
knows.
one.
Yeah.
The token one.
Yeah.
And once one dies,
They replace him with a new one.
T-Dog died.
Yeah, and then
They get the
they
prisoner.
get the prisoner, and then he died.
Then he died, and they got
Tyrese comes along. But now
Exactly.
Tyrese is I don't even know her name.
Sasha.
Do we know her name?
Sasha.
Yeah, but it only applies to black men.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Michonne is.
Yeah, she's okay. She's in the clear. Same thing. I mean, Morgan. He didn't appear in an episode with everybody. Okay, it was just one black guy. What the hell's going on here?
This means that black men do not do well in zombie apocalypse.
They also kind of don't really do a lot with the whole like Hispanic population. I your main Hispanic.
We had the
character,
Vatos that were taking care of the old people,
right?
In season 1.
But then
that one struck a chord with me. It did.
But then you've got, the Hispanic prisoner. He's the one who's the badass who Rick kills right away.
Oh yeah,
You know, the fucking
the Rickinator fucking macheted him in the head.
Yeah, and then you've got Martinez, and what are they? I mean, like, okay, Hispanic person, last name Martinez.
Well, I mean, then again, it is set in Georgia.
Stereotypical.
You know.
Well, Atlanta.
Yeah. So we're coming up towards we're about caught up here. We've got the conflict going back and forth between the prison and people swapping sides and Rick and them coming in.
Well,
to save
T-Dog
them.
dies during this
T-Dog
period.
dies.
We thought Carol was gone.
Carol died.
We thought
yeah.
Carol died.
Daryl came to the
The
rescue.
one prisoner, Axel, gets killed.
That was awesome. That was really well played because
I like that character.
just one swift bullet to the head.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
dropped him like a fly.
the other prisoner went to
Woodbury during the
Woodbury,
raid
and he died there. All of a sudden, they have this arsenal of grenades and everything. Which I mean, I guess okay, but it was literally like this crazy assault on Woodbury.
Yeah.
It was a little over the top with the smoke and everything. And then Rick sees Shane for a split
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, this
Yeah.
was during his hallucination period.
Yeah.
Which did you notice at the end when Rick's unloading the bus, he looks up to the bridge part or whatever.
Oh,
where
Lori's
he kept
gone.
saying, There's no Lori.
No more hallucination.
So is she gone for good?
I think.
Wait till another tragedy. There should be, by my calculations of the comic book, there's two more big points that coming up, and that's where Rick loses his hand. I don't know if they'll play that out in the show, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't really see them.
Maybe they did Merrill instead.
Yeah, but Carl gets shot in the face. So maybe we'll
Survives, though.
He survives. Yes.
So,
Yeah,
let's
he
hope
survives and becomes more of a badass, and then picks up Abraham, who hasn't been introduced yet. He's got an M16, and Carl picks it up and just starts shooting people. It was awesome. Yes. Maybe if they play that route, maybe we'll see a reappearance of Lori. Maybe when things are too hectic and Rick can't handle the real world, she'll come back into play a little bit. And we've got
I love when they raid the prison, and the governor just. There's that random ninja character that drives that truck in.
the truck in, yeah, with
and then just leaves all the zombies.
yeah,
That was awesome.
exactly.
They
It's
almost
like
We
a zombie
never
bomb.
found out who that was.
No.
That
unnamed
character
women
was,
ninja number one.
right. And that person never pops up again. It's like we forgot about her.
Yeah, it
the
was
bread truck,
with
the zombie bread
bomb.
truck.
Yeah.
Zombie
We end the mid-season finale of season 3
Amazing.
with the Dixon brothers facing off.
Yeah, it's like my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the governor accuses Merle
America.
of betraying the group, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. The only thing
It's
he did
propaganda.
wrong. The only thing he did wrong was he
you know.
lied to the governor and said he killed Michonne.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
what he thought was the betrayal. Mm-hmm. But
Well, and he had kind of built it up because saying that Daryl's his brother, Daryl's with the other group,
Yeah.
and he's been in contact
I
with him.
like how they were advertising the second half. Of
And it was the fight, and then the fight lasts 5 minutes.
Well,
not even.
they're advertising it, and then it says in the rest of season 3, and you see Daryl running through the woods, and you see references to Merle, so you know both of them survive.
Speaking of, I mean, there was that big build up to the fight, which lasted like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, I would have liked to see that play out a little bit more. Maybe them fight out a little brotherly tension there.
Yeah.
Then escape into the woods. And I was really hoping that we were going to have the adventures of the Dixon brothers for a little while before they were reintroduced back to the prison.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping they would have gone off on their own little adventure for a couple of episodes instead of like later that episode they show up.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they save Rick's life.
Because they had some interesting dynamic going there where...
Which that was also completely badass when Rick's backed up against the fence and then you just see the arrow.
Yeah.
It's like, yes!
But
because obviously
you see a dynamic that they could have built on a little bit more between Merle and Daryl, where Merle's questioning Daryl's loyalty and, you've lost your touch, and Daryl knew exactly where they were at. They're crossing that creek and everything.
Because we see the sign.
Exactly. I would have liked to see that. I think if they would have played that out a little bit more, drug that out a couple episodes, that the impact, and now we're leading up to Merle dying, would have been even greater than what it was. We had literally one episode, not even a full episode, I'd say a good 40 minutes of they sped through Merle's transition from villain to good guy. Okay, it went really quick when they could have built that up a little bit more and made his death a little bit more impactful.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it wasn't, because it was.
Daryl
wasn't crying. Daryl wasn't crying. He was sweating out of his eyes. Okay.
You don't make Daryl Dixon cry.
Okay. All right.
Well, that scene where like he's like dragging. So they get.
I loved when he was in the car with the music blasting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, there was the meeting between the governor and Rick,
which doesn't happen.
Oh,
they meet in Woodbury, but
I like how there's during that scene, there's like all of the similar characters meet, like the henchmen going like a zombie spree.
Yeah,
Milton and Herschel.
Where they have some like sexual thing going on there.
Because he wants to feel his stump.
Let me see your leg.
Yeah. He's like, no, I got a gun taped to it.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
It was a pretty good scene. It was.
Yeah.
It
and
was.
then you have Martinez and Daryl share the cigarette or something.
Yeah, that was cool. That was nice.
It was a nice break.
Yeah.
Well, because it showed you too that, while their two leaders, are up in arms.
Yeah, where they're having a pissing contest inside, they're outside, they're kind of getting along.
Right.
It's
They're
like
still
nice to see other people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And one episode before that was the episode with what's the guy's name from season 1?
Morgan.
The Morgan
I
episode.
loved that.
Yeah,
that
Morgan kind of
went.
Morgan really went batshit crazy.
You haven't re-encountered Morgan in the comic yet, have you? Okay.
There's only 4 characters in that episode, and 2 of them are Carl and Michonne.
Yeah,
so I love
and it's like the Carl and Michonne story. They're going off on their own little.
Oh my god, the fucking cat that she steals! Because it's like I see her come out with the photo, which first of all they did really quick. It's like she was gone for 2 seconds. How the hell did she grab that off the wall?
She's a fucking ninja.
Yeah. Exactly, I guess so. But then it's like, okay, she's got something else behind her back while she's talking to Carl, and then she pulls out that ugly fucking cat, and it's like, oh my god, Michonne and I have something in common, like ugly cat sculptures.
Yeah.
I really liked what they did with Morgan. I'm trying. It's been a while. I'm trying to reference back to the comic, but Dwayne, Morgan's son, you actually see him as a little zombie kid.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
In the story, and I know we're grazing over the whole fight between Michonne and the governor, which was epic. That was far more graphic in the comic. Because she actually cuts his penis off and then cauterizes it for him. I'm dead serious. She comes in with like a bag of tools. Like she's
like how he had set up?
Exactly. You see how
well she was raped like
exactly. But you see how like absolutely batshit crazy this woman is. She's like she takes it out on him.
Mm-hmm.
So then we've got this big scene with Merle and Daryl. And how did you feel again?
Oh, is this when they're in the prison where...
exactly. The reconnecting of the brothers and then ultimately Merle becoming a zombie.
Oh, okay. We're at that scene.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought... Well, before that, first, you can see Merle's transition with when he was in that scene with Michonne in the car.
In the car.
Yeah.
And
Which nice ghetto-ass car to steal, by the way. A
It was
Caprice
awesome.
with rims.
It was awesome.
I like how he's fixing the car and there's zombies all over the place.
Yeah,
There's
he's
just honking
he's
on.
like, I give no fuck. You know?
Yeah. Not a single fuck was given.
And you actually see quite a bit of fear from Michonne for I want to say like the first time. I mean, even when she's like standing there with the formula, going back a little bit, with the very like almost zombie-esque face. There's no fear there.
There's no
But when
fear.
she's tied up with the phone cord, she's like, hey.
Well, but then there's that scene where Merle's like, you could have ran away. Like I thought
She's
you'd
like,
run.
I wanted my sword back first.
Yeah.
Well, the dynamic there is that she knows that she's going to get to Merle because she's not going to go back to the governor.
Yeah,
she's not.
Yeah,
and she knows that she's going to be able to convince
And
Merle.
probably one of the only people who could.
Yeah. So it was weird because the thing is
they had a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So
a very love-hate relationship kind of. Yeah.
I love that car ride with the two of them.
That was
great.
good. And I love when he's drunk in the car later and he taps the on glass to the zombie.
Yeah.
And that smirk, he's got Motorhead playing.
It was Motorhead.
It was.
See? I
It's
told
very
you.
much like Zombieland, almost like
Very
Woody
Woody
Harrelson.
Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Wasn't it Tallahassee?
Yeah, Tallahassee was
It
his name.
very much. That's how Merle ended up becoming.
He looks
Yeah.
like him.
He was like Tallahassee. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like fuck it. Where's Bill Murray so I can shoot him?
Yeah, where's
That's-
Twinkie? Give me a damn Twinkie.
exactly.
Smirk.
Well, and when you think about it, his Twinkie was meth.
Yeah, I guess.
And supposedly, there's I just read this going back to when Daryl had Merle's stash of drugs. There's blue crystal meth, which I guess is a reference to Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Which I didn't catch.
Yeah.
So that universe supposedly ties in slightly.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, don't they live? Where do they live in Breaking Bad? I've only
New
seen
Mexico.
New Mexico.
Albuquerque.
I knew it was like some hot place.
Pretty hot.
Yeah.
But then that scene with Merle and seeing Merle's death. At least
Now
he went out with a bang.
I know your reaction. I talked to you shortly after.
I posted my status was I have to stop liking characters on The Walking Dead because they're just all gonna die. First Shane, then Merle.
And we're just waiting to knock off Carl.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I was the
You cried again.
Yeah.
That when Daryl finds his freaking brother and he's not even like dead. He's a zombie. And the governor, you know that asshole did that intentionally because he knew Daryl would come to look for his brother.
He knew somebody. I think more appropriately.
I think he had a good idea that it was going to be Daryl.
Yeah,
So let's have him
I
as a
loved
zombie.
his last line. I ain't gonna beg.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude's arm's broken and his fingers are chewed off.
Yeah.
The governor bites his fingers off.
Yeah, and then they spit it at the screen.
Yeah.
That was like, holy
And Merle shoots the kid, which I liked too. When he goes to take his shot at the governor, that's the one dude's kid that was in there, and it was like, okay, well now we've written him off.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he tried. He really did.
He did a good job. Good old
I'm
Merle.
not gonna beg.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beg.
You know, and Merle's.
Rest in
Merle's
peace.
character is one because he was an ass to everybody. Everybody was always an ass to him. Bar fights constantly. Probably had to pay women to sleep with him.
Again, you see just a slight crack in his
the
armor
humanity,
with Carol when they're having the conversation. You see just a little going back when he's in the basement and he's actually prepping to kidnap Michonne and Daryl comes down to find him. He's like, I just want my brother back. He's like, get away from me.
Yeah.
Ew. When you know in reality, looking back in hindsight, that was probably that twinge in Merle's heart where he's like, I'm never going to see my brother again.
Yeah.
Because I think Merle knew wholeheartedly he wasn't coming out of that alive.
Yeah.
That I really do. Yeah. That leads us into last night's episode.
Pretty much, yeah.
Where Andrea tries to make it back to...
That whole thing with Milton and Andrea was great.
Yes.
She tries...
I felt very bad.
Well, she's an idiot because she's like, let me stop trying to free myself for 5 minutes while I listen to see if this guy's still alive.
Well...
Yeah.
She was doing it to comfort Milton, too, I think, because...
fuck that, man.
You're a race against the clock. That guy is going to die and turn into a zombie, and you're looking at him like... Is he there yet?
Yeah.
Because he was
now he's there.
scared
Now
of
let me get
dying.
free.
He was scared of dying. He was scared of turning into a zombie, and he didn't want to hurt Andrea because Andrea was like kind of the first person to really treat him like a human being and not some kind of like little nerd that I'm going to push around. Because if you think about it, aside from Milton's scientific, quotes can't be seen on a microphone, whatever, scientific capabilities, Milton has no use. He's a nerd. He's probably been picked on his whole life. He probably can't handle a weapon.
Hey.
You know, the governor could have easily
They keep
disposed
taking
of him.
away the nerds from the show when you think about it, though. But Glenn was a nerd, and then all of a sudden, he's getting his ass whipped by Merle, and he's a badass.
Yeah, and I mean, Milton could have been easy fodder for any zombie. And probably, you know, before the governor picked him up wherever he did, Milton probably thought he was going to die and die quickly. You know, and Milton's journaling everything. So we've got to find where his book is, too, because he wrote down everything.
Yeah.
So there's that. But one thing... You know, because after all the news and whatnot...
You gonna cry again?
Shut up! After everything, you know, I was looking at Twitter, I was looking at the different websites to see people's reactions, and I could not believe I saw this from Will Wheaton. He tweeted, "My phone just died." So...
Do you know what it was?
It's something like in a deleted scene, the governor drives away and drives over a zombie shark. He jumps the shark, if you will.
Screw Will Wheaton.
I don't see any zombie jumping. I thought it was zombie jumping. Oh,
Shark jumping?
Yes, shark jumping. I think, and Andrea's death, I think, was pretty appropriate for her.
They tried to make that big deal of it. There was that whole episode basically around her.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, the fact that she gets bitten, she doesn't die because the governor breaks her neck or she doesn't get shot or anything like that.
It's the
she
torture that they put her,
bitten.
like, you know.
I think everyone thought Andrea was going to get out in time. You know, and then they do that little teaser where you hear what's going on behind the door, but you don't really see anything. And you're like, oh, she's going to be fine. You know, she got it. She's all right. She made it in time.
Well, I kind of thought something happened, but I still thought she was going to come out of it okay. Just like, oh, well, now she's got a broken leg or broken arm or something like that. That's going to have a hard time
Here's
to
one
heal.
thing, and it's completely off topic, and it's horrible. But any chick that can get her boots off without using her hands, you know she's a slut. I'm just saying. She's like, boom, boom, boots off.
Don't you ever... Whatever. So apparently I'm a slut then. But I was more impressed by the fact that why wasn't she wearing socks?
Because it's hot.
Maybe she was, and she got those off as well.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I thought that part was weird. She takes off her boots, she doesn't have socks on.
Yeah. Anyways, so then we've got the governor leading the assault on the prison, which part of me was anticipating what happened in the comic book, which is the all-out assault happens on the prison, and then the people on Woodbury turn on the governor, and that's when the governor dies.
Okay.
Part of me knew, because of the dynamic of the character in the show and how well received he's been, there was absolutely no way that he was going to only be one season.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think going into season 4 that we're not going to see. We'll catch a glimpse of him, and you can quote me on this, at the mid-season finale is when you'll see him. That's when you're like, he'll walk out of the shadow. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be, you know, you're not going to see him in the first half of that season. I think we're going to see more of like season 2, where the first half of season 4 is character development again. That's what I honestly think.
Yeah. Just and also in the kind of last half of season 3, we see Beth emerge a little bit more as a character.
She kills her first zombie.
Yeah.
Well, she's killing a few of them.
Yeah, but I mean, she
at
got
the
her first
end,
one.
at the last.
I like that though.
Yeah.
She's
You know,
alright.
so she's coming up a little bit. They've got some work to do, obviously, around the prison. Their gates are kind of all.
Yeah, and they got
whatnot.
like booby traps set in the prison and everything with the fucking flashbangs and whatnot. And
that was awesome.
That was kind of that was clever.
If they were gonna go to that extreme, when I'm watching it, I was like, okay, it's a trap. They got keys. The point of a prison is that people can't get out.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just lock them in there?
Well, because they have guns, and guns go through bars. And...
Yeah, but I mean, it's realistically, with the layout of a prison, it's corridors and things like that.
Yeah.
There's choke points specifically designed for things like that. They could have locked them in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand
the electricity's out.
There was part. It doesn't matter.
Which I don't get. Then the emergency lights go on.
They used keys. You see them several times during season 3.
They're locking
lock
people
the
in.
doors.
But that's also in the one cell block. So do they have the same keys for all cell blocks?
They've
Yeah,
got
well,
the entire key ring because they go through. Because remember when the zombies start coming back in, and that's when we see T-Dog die, and we think Carol dies. Is when the one prisoner's letting the zombies back in.
Right,
They've got keys for the whole thing.
Well, and I also thought, too, that there was part of the prison because Tyrese and his group
there is
got
a section of it, but again, with a little bit more thought process, they could have trapped them in there. They really could.
That whole scene sort of happened fast. They came in with all that heavy itinerary.
It's like, what the fuck are you
right. Taking down the guard towers, and then you're wasting all that ammo on the walkers, and I'm surprised we didn't see like a whole horde of zombies then fleet upon the prison, because that was loud.
We don't know yet. It
true.
does take time.
That's true, we don't know.
One of the biggest things to carry over from season 1 to season 3 was the helicopter that Rick kept thinking that he saw.
Yeah.
And then you saw how a herd of zombies forms.
Yeah.
One of them catches a noise and they start walking, and because they're making noise. So, I mean, we could end up 3-4 episodes into season 4 before we see the culmination of this herd that could potentially be on the way. That's true. So...
And then I think, though, if they would have trapped him in the prison, how would you have had them get out and turn on the governor and realize that he's finally, this dude is
I'm saying if
crazy.
they were going to end it and they wanted to end it different than the comic and they were going to end the run of the governor, that would have been the way to do it. Just like, trap him in the prison. The thing that he was trying to get to the most, it would have been kind of ironic to lock him in there.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Maybe he will end up in the prison. We're not 100% sure.
All right. So that brings us pretty much wrapped up. Obviously, there's still a long way to go with the comic, and we'll probably do another one of these in a year from now or whatever, whenever season 4 wraps up. You should be caught up with the comic by then because it's only taking you 3 seasons to start reading the book now.
Oh, shut up.
You planning on reading the comic at all?
Maybe. I know when people live and die.
When you finally decide to upgrade from your CrackBerry, your phone.
My BlackBerry.
Your BlackBerry, CrackBerry. There's a great app called Comixology, and you can buy digital copies of the comic. They give away issue 1 for
I'll
free.
probably do it eventually.
Yeah. If you have any interest in expanding, obviously, I know that you still intend on playing the Telltale game on your computer.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
You need to get through that. I know
I'll probably play that in the next few weeks.
Good.
Well, is that the game that you played that you told me not to play?
That I cried at the end of the game?
Yeah,
yes.
You don't cry at the goddamn TV show, but you cry for a goddamn video game? What the hell is wrong with you?
I know we only scratched the surface of this, but there's definitely more content to talk about as the series and everything continues. So we'll pick it back up again from there. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
I'm glad that Carl's still living. I like how the Carl and Rick got this thing going.
Oh yeah, he basically there was a comedian on Talking Dead last night, and she goes, the scene between Rick and Carl was the equivalent of a rap battle when a musician just drops the mic. Because that's what he did. He's like, fuck you. Boom. Because he even tells them, like, get out of here or something. He says something along those lines.
Go back to doing what you're doing
Yeah,
or
he
something.
like dismisses his father.
Yeah.
Good.
I'd have slapped that kid.
Good, Carl.
I'd have busted his ass.
John Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All we
He's
need
the one
is
to save the human race.
Yeah, all we needed was the Terminator music to cue in.
They need to bring Arnold Schwarzenegger for season 4 of
as a zombie, just as a cameo,
just as his new.
Get to the chopper!
There's the zombies are coming.
The zombie apocalypse. Get to California.
Oh goodness.
Oh god.
Well, there's a character named Abraham that hasn't come up yet.
All right, they need to play him as Arnold.
I mean, he's a big burly. He's got like the Hulk Hogan handlebar mustache, but I mean, he could technically be Arnold because
they
he's
would never do that.
He's
though.
military.
They would.
So it'd be awesome.
Zombie Arnold.
Miss, your final thoughts on your first ever podcast?
I probably could have extended this by like 5 more hours, just trying to think of things that we didn't talk about.
Daryl.
Not just Daryl.
If you want, we can do. I can let you sit here and do your own Daryl podcast one night.
Oh God, shut up! I hate you.
Dreamy.
Yeah.
What I don't like about Daryl, I have to say this. I think we've talked about this before. Is that if you ask anybody who watches The Walking Dead who their favorite character is, It's Daryl Dixon, okay? And this is, like, what kind of character show is it that everybody's favorite character is the same character?
Yeah. Rick Grimes is a very close second. I do really like Rick.
Yeah, well, everybody likes Daryl. Rick is like he's there, but everybody likes Daryl. And then...
I just like Norman Reedus.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
To be honest,
it is.
I bought a really crappy video game because Norman Reedus and Michael Rooker do the voices.
That's
okay,
right.
so.
And,
but I'm excited for season 4.
Yeah,
but we have a ways to go.
Yeah, we got like 8 months.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to do with Judith. Are they going to do the typical children rapid aging in television, that miracle potion?
I don't know. I mean,
are they going to kill her off?
She's got to survive like 4 years before she's... I mean, they can be an infant for, like, you know, it could be a 1-year-old baby. They can just keep substituting babies.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What are they going to do with the show? I mean, they've done... Because... Part of the restraint on Carol and Beth's character has been because they're always supposedly taking care of the baby.
Yeah.
You know, so...
I don't think the baby will survive.
Yeah.
I know it
She
doesn't in the comics.
Right. There's got to be a way for her to get...
But then again, you know, Daryl did name her Little Ass Kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a whole market of Little Ass Kicker onesies now. I'm dead serious. It's ridiculous.
I think the baby will die. I think...
Beth. I think Beth will.
Beth? Yeah, I like her, though. Yeah.
Well, I think we've got to see...
As
they got to kill off some characters.
As integral as Herschel is...
I love Herschel.
In that environment, he's a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
You know what they should have done
but
with
you know
Herschel?
what? In the prison...
Yeah, I like how he's the getaway guy.
Yeah!
But
I got one good foot to hit the gas. You know?
That's all you need!
Have you seen Grindhouse?
No.
We're going to attach a gun to his leg.
Put a gun on his machine gun. Let him...
Well, he's got...
Take Michonne's sword.
He needs like a taxi driver apparatus for his stuff. You know, just one thing. You talking to me?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. But,
Herschel. I like Herschel. I like all the 2 girls, too. So.
Yeah. I'd like to see in season 4, I think, hopefully maybe things will kind of calm down. Now we've seen some kids come in that are maybe Carl's age. So maybe we'll finally see him get some interaction with children.
Since you
I think
said
Carl and Beth will develop something.
Since you said that,
well, we know he likes her.
Yeah, there was that little chemistry.
Yeah.
that little Anakin Skywalker Padme thing going on there. Maybe they're going to introduce the twins.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's Carol's twins. Right? Or whose twins was it?
They're the other chick, Alan.
Yeah.
Whose wife dies.
Yeah. There's a set of twins, and there's a really, really weird dynamic there with the twins that they could introduce. That would be interesting.
We'll see. And we'll see how Rick's mental status stays intact. How his, if the governor is gone and the prison's going to be safe for a little bit, maybe he can work on his parenting skills somewhat.
Hey, he kissed the baby for once.
He did. Yeah. This poor guy, he finally, when he has time to spend with his children, he doesn't want to go anywhere near him because he's like
wandering
horrified.
in the woods looking for a ghost.
Yeah. Which that conversation with Herschel, I liked that scene. That was a good conversation, just kind of like, because Herschel finally is like, something is not right with this dude, And so then he's trying to talk to Rick, and how do you some people when they're crazy, you just can't come out and say they're crazy.
You said that you could talk for 5 hours. But.
Shut up! Fine, I'll stop.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.